session will be televised, and if your phone rings, you'll be on camera almost instantaneous. So,
Is that a bad thing?
well, you know, I had rather not be on, but that way it won't cause a problem later. Y'all ready? Got a whole crew. Everybody ready? You ready? Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to call to order the business session for the Madison County Planning and Zoning Commission for April 17, 2018. And Ms. Secretary, would you call the roll for us, please?
Chris Hager.
Here.
James Keaton.
Here.
Paul Bianchi. Here. Robert Farmer. Shannon Pennington.
Here.
Doug Fritz.
Here.
Alan Hatfield.
Here.
The first order of business would be to review and approve the minutes. Everybody should have that, and should have looked at that. Is there any questions or any changes in regard to the minute packet that we have?
I'll make a motion to accept them as they are.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. If you would, please call the roll.
Alan Hatfield.
Yes.
Doug Fritz.
Yes.
Shannon Pennington.
Yes.
Paul Bianchi. Yes. James Keaton.
Yes.
Chris Hager.
Yes.
The next order of business would be the site development plan for Northern Mini Storage at 3575 Colonel Road. This was looked at the last work session. Does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to add? Or any questions before we open up the floor for a motion?
We had a few notes here that Dwayne was gonna.
They were updated compared to what we got?
Correct?
Right. I met with Bert and, we put the waiver on there, the note going from
Yeah,
the
I saw that.
125-foot setback to
Yeah.
the 50. We put the note on about a privacy fence and, about whether there's gonna be a sign or not, and the sign just will be located on the building. That's all we had on our last list that we had.
So the only waiver we have to have is for the setback, right?
Yes. Yes,
From
sir.
125 to 50?
Yes, sir.
You are leaving a landscape buffer between you and the church.
Yes.
If we have no further questions or comments, we'll open up the floor for a motion.
I would move that we approve the northern mini storage site development plan with the acceptance of the waiver for the setback to 50 feet.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll?
Doug Fritz.
Yes.
Chris Hager.
Yes.
Alan Hatfield.
Yes.
James Keaton.
Yes.
Paul Bianchi.
Yes.
Shannon Pennington.
Yes. And the next order of business would be the preliminary plat for the subdivision, Dove's Landing, 3188 Irvin Road. Dwayne, you have comments, is there any comments I guess we need to add to this?
Yes, I was speaking with Dr. Bianchi before the meeting, and there's some ambiguity on the wording of what is green space. On a previous subdivision, we had just used the acreage of the lots, excluding the road right-of-way, and that's what we were hoping to ask for a waiver so we could do the same as we did on the previous subdivision, and just do 20% of the total lot area instead of doing the total farm area.
Yeah, and I agree with him that we should waive it because we're trying to clean up the regs right now and we don't have a lot of definitions. And when you read the high density reg under number 4 notes, a minimum of 20% of open area is required for the development. Well, we don't exactly know what they were thinking when they said open air, and the development is 28 acres. The lots are 18 acres. So I think until we clean up that definition of what are we asking for in green space, are we asking for 20% of 28 acres? I think we should grant him a waiver because that's our drafting problem and we have to fix it.
The only other thing that we haven't got done that I know of is we're still waiting on our interest permit back from the state. But they did send us our list of corrections last Thursday, so we'll have those and have our interest permit okay, probably be next week sometime.
So we'd have to have a motion to approve, if we approve it or not, based upon the contention of getting that permit.
Yeah, and approval of the waiver.
Let me ask you, did you do the three things that Bert asked you about, the vicinity map?
Yeah, the city map, drainage calcs,
You're discussing the land of
the
green
legends.
space. Now, what about the turn lane detail on the exit?
Yeah, I have it fixed.
You got that fixed, okay? The
Yeah.
legend,
Mhm.
got that in there? City street note? Detail on the roundabout.
On the roundabout, yeah.
Okay.
So Marty, are you satisfied that he's met?
If he done those things, I just asked him.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's that detail. Does any of the other commission members have any questions or comments? Before we open the floor up for a, motion.
I have one question. I asked Dr. Bianchi, but just to get it on record and clarify, what was the intended use or the intended principle behind this 20% space? Is that intended to be 20% of the total? If it was a 50-acre development, is it 20% of the complete development before it starts, or what was the
In
intended
my mind,
use
it
when
was,
written?
but then we've had questions,
Okay.
in regards to that. And the biggest thing with this one is we wanna be uniform between the last one that we did
Yeah.
and this one here. So I think with, the waiver that Dr. Bianchi come up with, I think that would meet the same thing we did at the other one.
This is very high density.
Until we get
housing.
that law, or get that regulation clarified, we can name exactly what we're looking for.
It is a very dense housing when you're looking at a bunch of 9,000 square foot lots and some 11,000, but you're looking at lots and lots of people in a very confined area. So you need far more green space when you're that dense. But I think we need to clarify the reg and define open space and define development. So
I think
we
that
don't-
reg was probably wrote for 1 acre lots.
Unless we
instead.
spell it out A,
For
B,
this-
C, and
for
D,
high
it's hard to
density.
hold
Well,
to
I
it,
guess
because it would change.
the intent of the reg was probably wrote, because most of our subdivisions, 99% of them, septic thing, 1 acre lot.
1 acre
They're
lot,
one acre
yeah.
lots,
Yeah.
yes.
So we don't really deal with that. That's probably why it's never stuck its head up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he met the 20-acre
Yeah.
minimum, he met the 9,000 square feet minimum.
Right.
And he ended up with, I don't even remember how many lots you ended up with. You ended up with lots and lots and
Hey, look
lots.
at-
Yeah,
Oh.
76. Yes.
So I think we need to clean up these definitions and these regulations, so.
We don't wanna hold somebody to something that we cannot defend. Is anybody else have any questions or comments before we open up the floor for a motion? If not, we'll open up the floor for a motion in regards to, Dove's Landing.
Make a motion that we approve the preliminary subdivision plat for Dove's Landing pending approval from the state of the entrance and granting a waiver on the 20% required green space on the total acreage for this plat.
With
I
the
would-
3 conditions that Marty mentioned previously.
Well,
Well,
They've already
corrected it.
corrected. They've
Correct.
corrected it.
I would ask that you say we waive the 20% conditions until we based on the fact that we have not clarified this particular regulation, so it doesn't become across the board.
based upon the ambiguity of the current regulations, we request that, or you request that we waive the 20% requirement of the total acreage for the subdivision development.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We'll have a motion and a second. If you would, please call the roll.
Shannon Pennington,
Yes.
Paul Bianchi,
Yes.
James Keaton,
Yes.
Alan Hatfield,
Yes.
Doug Fritz.
Yes.
Thank y'all very much.
The next order of business is the land use map amendment for 2827 Lexington Road. If you would, state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Morgan Eves. I'm an attorney for the owners, Paul Sword and John Marks, and my address is 218 West Main Street.
All right.
We are proposing a zone change for 2827 Lexington Road. It's currently zoned UC7, and we're proposing that it be zoned UC4. Proposing that, my client's in the construction business, proposing that on the northern portion of the lot, we construct a joint warehouse and office building. And I believe each of you got a fairly detailed drawing from the architect. It will have a gravel storage outdoor area behind it, where things like backhoes will be stowed. Indoor, we anticipate things like bobcats being stored. In terms of the statutory requirements for a zone change, it meets all three. It is in accordance with page 144 of the comprehensive plan, which notes that we anticipate more, the county anticipates more development along the I-75 corridor in northern Madison County. These folks currently have their business in Lexington. They're Richmond residents, and they're looking to move those positions in that facility over to Richmond. So it would bring some revenue over here with a little bit of job creation and the relocation of those jobs. In terms of the existing zone classification being inappropriate, this property has been owned by these gentlemen for the past 10 years, and that time has never been utilized as agricultural. It's probably too small to be agricultural, and probably would not be marketable as a single-family residence. And the area has certainly changed. There are several general commercial uses around it, including Apollo Pizza right across the interstate. I think a few lots down is a landscaping facility. So it meets all three statutory requirements. I understand that there are some concerns from neighboring landowners who are single-family in a single-family residential zone. My client would not be opposed to adding some sort of landscaping or screening. Of course, that would be on the development site plan. But this facility would not endanger their quiet enjoyment of the property, and is actually being built further on the opposite side of the property than the neighboring home. So it wouldn't be any sort of physical impairment on the adjoining property owners.
Now, according to the reg, your owner is required to put in a landscape buffer every place that he is touching different use classifications. So every place he is touching in UC7,
Yes.
he's going to have to.
Yes.
I'm putting any proof forward and calling the witnesses.
No.
So the finding of fact would be based on a picture of the drawing.
Picture of the drawing and
Can't be based on your statement.
picture of the drawing and the attachment about the statutory, how it conforms to the statutory requirements. But the drawing is our main piece of evidence.
Marty, that piece of land that is directly across the street from Lexington Road, is that not zone commercial?
It is.
Yes, I'm sorry, Chris, I should have addressed that. On my application, zoning west, I have the land use as undeveloped agricultural, but it is zoned UC3, which is neighborhood commercial, but it's vacant. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it looks, the appearance of a farm, but it has the zone of whatever it's got
It's neighborhood
Neighborhood
commercial.
commercial.
It's listed.
directly across the street, but then the rest of it, it needs to widen it out.
Yeah.
You can see it's got, you see two in behind it, as you go down to Clay Lane, that is, and then you see more. don't change it.
Do you know how long
Physical
that's
court-
been
Nah.
since that was changed?
Since they condemned Bennett Farm, what park,
You-
we did when they all went.
Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna need to come up.
When
Yeah.
we're done, you
I'm
need to
sorry.
come up.
You probably, you could.
Yeah, we'll call you as a witness here in just a minute, okay? So is that all you have to add here?
That is it, unless you have any
Alright.
other questions for me.
No? Any of the commission members have any questions for the attorney before we call witnesses? At this time, I'd like to ask anyone if they'd like to come up and be a witness and make a statement for or against. I have to swear you in. If you raise your right hand, swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Rona Comley, and I live at 2761 Lexington Road. I'm adjacent to the property that is potentially being rezoned. Before I begin, I want to pass some pictures out. My home is first, and then the other 13 or 14 pictures are within a mile, mile and a half, mile and 6/10 from my home, which are commercial, mixed in with residential. So I'll start with my home and then just kind of go down, if you would just pass them down. I want to share the pictures of the commercial properties 1.5 miles from my house. The first is my home, which is adjacent with the plank fence you'll see, the property that's in question. The next picture going north on Lexington Road's a metal building, that there's residential, but started off being storage, and it's continued to be added to, and things left and not kept up. The next couple of pictures continuing north is commercial property that began as a construction company and has since been sold 2 to 3 times. Each time there's been something added. Split the driveway, fencing dividing property, more and more buildings, equipment brought in that's lined up against the fence closest to Lexington Road. The next picture is a part of a residential property that has become a home for numerous tractors, vehicle trucks, most not working, and that's right at the corridor of where the I-75 work is going to begin. The next pictures show commercial properties with metal buildings that have been for business and storage. The security fencing looks like prison fencing. Working and non-working equipment, and equipment lined up against the fence and sitting all over the property. The next pictures show what visitors, individuals, and families see when they visit White House Shrine, State Shrine, and the nearby park, which is a shame. It's a shame. Again, a large equipment storage facility. And then the last pictures show more businesses of construction and storage. I show you these pictures to say the precedent has been set for the northern end of the county. It's not been monitored. It doesn't seem to be that there's any regulation to it once it starts. With that said, I have some questions that I would like to have addressed before this consideration of the land use change. Once changed from agricultural to commercial, is there an oversight committee, jurisdiction over what is proposed, follow through with proposal, and what happens if the property is sold, etc.? How does the comprehensive plan fit into the residential area? Because the way it is now, it's residential all down. There's Big T, then there's 1.5 miles down, the construction, the companies, commercial. What is the specific type of commercial zoning? What conversations will take place between myself and the future owners of the commercial property? I have plank fencing that I've put on this side of my property line. I did not put the fencing on the property line. How will their fencing and mine join? Will there be large security lights, business hours? What will the commercial property do to the adjoining and surrounding properties? Will it increase in value over time or instantly? Will it decrease in value? How will it affect taxes? What alterations will occur to the property to accommodate the change? There was once a pond in that field. Is a gravel road sufficient? Will the entering and exiting affect traffic on Lexington Road and Clay Lane? Are billboards allowed? I would like these addressed and answered. And if so, if they're ones of value increase and exemplary maintenance of the property, I ask, will they take interest in buying my property? Because I have some concerns. Not that it won't be nice and not that it won't be looked at and properly cared for. But what happens if they sell it? The corridor coming, 75 changing, it's going to continue. And if we have the precedent that has already been set, it's not going to be livable in that area. It's not going to look good.
The one question that I can answer is as far as the oversight, once the zone is changed or not, any oversight for any piece of property would fall, with Marty's office, if it meets the guidelines and the regulations that are set forth in the regs to do that. And that would be different for each piece of property according to that zone. If it's zoned one way or the other, those oversights, would be they're spelled out in our regulations with Marty's office, they take care of that. Billboards and signs, that has to do with, the development plan of the contract, the builder, whatever, and that has to be approved at the development plan. We couldn't, I don't think we could say that we would allow or not allow a sign at this point.
If I could help her a little bit,
Yes,
maybe,
please.
you probably don't understand the process. I'm gonna try to explain it. This commission will listen to this testimony, and they'll either make a recommendation to approve or to deny to the fiscal court. The fiscal court will have two readings, the first Tuesday of the month, and this is the first one, and they won't take any conversation, any testimony, anything. The second one, they will. They'll make a motion if they're gonna approve it. You'll get up and do the same thing again. And then if they approve it, it will come back to this planning commission for the site development plan, which is showing this building on the lot and everything that you just asked about. The lighting, and you have the opportunity to voice your opinion.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
And I know you, I'm assuming you did. But it's got some things, it'll be similar to this. A little
They
more
would be
detailed than
bound
this.
to a lot of regulations, is what
I'm
he's saying.
sorry.
Right,
It
so-
has to be approved, a site development plan has to be approved, and certain things like landscape buffers would be discussed, at that point between your property and theirs, if it was approved. I mean,
What's
if we
happened to the
made-
properties down the road that no one looks after?
I hate to interrupt, but at this point, we're having a judicial hearing, and people that are there, you're here to give testimony. And it's not really fair to everybody, especially these people, that they're not really here to answer questions, they're here to hear testimony. You're a very important witness, you live adjacent to this property, don't you?
Right, but I
And
want
so-
my answers, I want them answered at some point. If
That's
it's not
fine,
this committee,
and
another.
I think, the planning and codes office would be a great place to ask those questions. They're there. I'm the attorney for it. I'd be happy to talk to you about all those things. They're good, they're easy questions to answer. You may not like the answers, you may like them. But this, I need to point out, this is a hearing, and it's only appropriate right now for people that are being sworn in, really to, give testimony about whether or not this particular, land map amendment should be made or not.
But my testimony's full of unanswered questions, and it seems like it's going to be a very quick process.
Could I ask you a question about the pictures? I didn't actually see those, but it's probably important. Are those pictures of property, that's okay, near this? Are you saying that there's
Yes,
a lot
sir.
of development near
Yes,
this
sir.
property?
Yes, sir.
So there's a lot of commercial development
Yes.
around the one that they're
Mhm.
wanting to make commercial?
Well, it's about a mile down the road. It's a mile down the road.
North, at the 95.
Right, at the 95 Boonesboro Winchester exit.
What's the closest, commercial development to this property that they're wanting?
Probably Big T's this is going north. Big T's is going south of my house.
How far away is that?
It's not even really
It's not a-
commercial now. They're renting.
Is it a
they're renting
landscape?
their house.
It started off as a landscaping place.
How far away is that from?
Probably a quarter of a mile, not even that.
Yeah, understand, some of the pictures you're showing us, those properties like Tebco were pre-planning and zoning commission, so there's nothing really we can do about that. I mean, I know from being on the commission a long time, in past decades, there have been attempts to purchase that, but the purchase price of that is just out of reach. So, yes, but that was pre-planning, and zoning.
one of the things is this is coming in new to a residential area. There's homes all around, Clay Lane and such. So whatever is set with this, and I know the Swords, I know, they bought one of my grandmother's farms. John Sword does nothing but improve. Black top, nice. It's not that I'm opposed to new development helping the end of the county. It's the problem of commercial coming into a residential, and the across the road, you know, that's acres and acres, and but it's coming in to set the precedence of new. It looks like a nice building of coming into residential area. I've been in my home, which was family home, for 9 years. I've been broken into 7 times, majorly broken into. Security is a big thing there. Because of great concern, once changed to commercial and the current owner's plans are carried out, will they sell in the near future? The I-75 corridor will soon begin, a mile and a half down the road. I fear that when I will have no say or control, nor will the county, to what the property will become if at some point it is sold. Once again, I'll be faced with the pictures that I have to show you.
Well, the one thing, or whatever the zoning classification of piece of property is, it'll go with the land. Whatever the zoning is, when it's sold, that zoning stays with that piece of property. It does not revert back or revert to anything else.
You do understand that the property across the road from you, that very large tract of land, is commercial?
Yes, ma'am. And it was several years ago.
It's several years.
And another thing, you know, as a witness, I have a concern of my property and those around. When I come back in, am I gonna have trouble changing because I'm residential and it's a house with 6 acres surrounded by commercial? Am I gonna be told, well, you have a house that's, you know, 100 years old and 6 acres, that's not really for development, you gotta stay there. That's not helping my property or whatever.
You know that what they want to rezone is 6 acres. What they want to rezone is 6.8 acres. 28,
I thought it was more than
27,
that.
it's 6, so you're approximately the same size.
I thought it was more acres than that.
And I could not speak to what would happen in the future, to any piece of property under any circumstance. That's a question that probably couldn't be answered. Do you have any further testimony you'd like to give?
Not at this time.
Okay. Would anybody else like to come up and address the court and give testimony in regards to, this zone change? No?
Not Mr. Chairman, my daughter was called out. May I speak? My name is Mike Eves.
Yes. Step up, state your name and
apologize.
address for the record.
Yes, sir. She was called out, so I guess I'll have to stand in for her.
And you are representing the owner.
I am. My name is Mike Eves. I'm an attorney in Richmond. My address also is 218 West Main Street. I'm here representing Mr. Sword and Mr. Marks. Mr. Marks is here. I might ask him to come up and just for a couple of purposes of clarification, and if you want to swear Mr. Marks.
We'd
that's
have to
fine.
swear him in. If you would, raise your right hand. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
State your name and address for the record, please.
John Marks, 500 Pinehurst Circle, Richmond, Kentucky.
Mr. Marks, how long have you and Mr. Sword owned this property?
Approximately 10 years.
Have you made any, has it been put to any agricultural use in that period of time?
No, his father cut some hay off of it just to keep it mowed. That way we didn't have to mow it, he mowed it for us.
Okay. Is it large enough to put to any practical, economically beneficial commercial, or
No.
I'm sorry, agricultural use?
No, sir.
This nice lady just testified about the other commercial uses up and down this same stretch of the road. Would you agree that there are a number of commercial locations within close proximity to your property?
Yes, sir.
And is it, if the property is currently zoned agricultural, and if it's not practical to make that use of the property, are the other tracts that are currently utilized as commercial property, are they similar in size and area that is located between 25 and I-75 as your property?
Yes, sir.
Very similar in size, configuration, and so forth?
Yes.
Is this the most appropriate use you can, in your opinion, you can determine for the use of your property, given the surrounding uses?
Yes, sir.
I guess it would be our point, and this is not testimony, it's just comment, and I'll sit down. You know, I hear this nice lady's concerns, and I guess anybody would, anytime you have a rezoning, you always have those concerns. But listening to her testimony and given the huge piece of land right across the road that's already zoned commercial, and the other commercial uses that are being and have been made of property in close proximity, I think that speaks significantly to the appropriateness of this request. I think those properties are being used for not identical uses, but for the same type of uses that are consistent with this zone change request.
All right,
That, we don't have anything else.
okay.
The gentleman had some information about the property custody zone.
Well, I just asked for any more testimony. One more time, I'll ask, does anybody else have any other further testimony they'd like to give?
Yes.
If you would, raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Mary Lois Kearns. The property across the road that has been referred to many times, it was changed to commercial several years ago when they were going to build the road connecting 25, then going to I-75 from Versailles, from Jessamine County. So it was deemed commercial. There will more than likely never be any commercial development on that property until this generation is gone, is dead. And we'll all probably be dead by then anyway. But I want to call your attention to page 78 of the use of the land of the comprehensive plan for Madison County. And let me just say, you all or whoever wrote this has done a wonderful job. We just have to stick to it for the good of our county. Page 78 in the comprehensive plan, under interrelationship with other sites.
Wait a minute. Okay, let me clarify something. Is the top of page 78 in your comprehensive plan, does it say?
I have
land?
just made notes.
Okay,
It's at the bottom.
it's at the bottom. Okay,
There's-
interrelationship, okay.
There's 4 items under one.
Mine's different,
Okay.
I think.
Do you see it?
What kinds of interactions take place
Oh,
way
okay.
down here? Yeah. Okay, we got you.
Yeah, does this land use change fit our comprehensive plan? How does the use of this site fit into that of surrounding areas? I know when the property was bought, it was our farm and the rest of it was on the other side of 75. And this property north was bought by Paul and John Marks. But I think you need to consider this land use change to commercial. And another reason being, when those commercial sites started down at the I-75 interchange where the filling station is and all of those sites, who would have known that it was going to grow into something like that? And quite frankly, folks, it's ugly. And people coming right off the interstate, going to the truck stop or going to the filling stations there, or even driving out to Whitehall. It's an eyesore. And that's what happens. It starts out looking nice, but then in a few years it begins to look like, take a drive out there and look at them. They're really a disgrace. So I really want you to consider this land use change, because in 3 or 5 years, if it has a commercial land use, how are you going to control what goes on it? Thank you very much.
Okay, at this time, we will close the floor for any further testimony or comments. Any discussion, comments from the commission members? If not, the next order of business will be open the floor for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to the fiscal court, that at 2827 Lexington Road, the existing zoning classification of UC7 to be changed to UC4, because of the finding of fact that the existing zoning classification given to the property is inappropriate and the proposed zoning classification is appropriate for the following reasons. It is bordered on 2 sides by commercial property, and that the zone change is in line with the comprehensive plan that states the need for development in northern Madison County and it is within the urban corridor.
There needs to be a correction to that. It's not bordered on 2 sides by commercial property.
I assume you're talking about across the interstate.
Okay, we have a
Can you all explain that? How can that be? It's across the interstate. It's not a 2-lane road, it's a 6-lane.
I apologize, but at this time, we will not take any more comments. You will have an opportunity at the fiscal court meeting to do this again.
But there's residential on either side too, but that doesn't get a mention.
Yes, ma'am. Like I say, at the fiscal court meeting, you'll have the opportunity to meet again, and they will give you the opportunity to testify and offer testimony in regard. All we do today is, from this body, we send to the fiscal court a recommendation.
Yes, sir, I
It's not
understand.
zoned yet, so it'll have to go through that first.
But
okay?
what he's saying is not accurate.
It's, the time for testimony is kind of going, it's time for, they have to discuss what he said. They may or may not vote on what he just now said, but it's really not a time for the audience to have any more comments on this. Y'all can say we don't agree with that. No, say we agree with what we do.
Question for council.
So there's been where are we at right now? Motion's been made.
The motion's been made, we're getting ready to.
Next one would happen to be a second.
Yeah, that's what.
And then there'll be discussion.
Okay.
And then that can be changed
All right.
or not changed or whatever.
All right, we have a motion made to, recommend the approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have something I'd like to discuss. None of us live out there, but I understand about how that works as far as wanting your property to look good. But the part I can't get past, folks, is the fact that there's all kinds of commercial around you already.
No, it's not. You drive out there and look.
And based on the fact that that property's not being used for anything at this point as far as agriculture for 6 acres, and the other property was 6 acres that's already been developed commercial, I can't see how we can't pass it.
Any further discussion, Jim?
I can tell you that our regs for notifying people about a zone change, we are required to notify the people on the opposite side of the road, whether the road is 2 lanes or 20 lanes. We are required to include the people on the opposite side of the road. And even though it's I-75, that's a requirement of the KRS to notify people on the opposite side of the road.
Yeah, that's been done.
That's a requirement that Marty has to meet whether he wants to or not.
And that, we've done that. Okay, we have a motion and a second. No further discussion? If you would, please call the roll.
Chris Hager,
Yes.
James Keaton,
Yes.
Paul Bianchi,
Yes.
Shannon Pennington,
No.
Doug Fritz,
No.
Alan Hatfield.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Like we said before, this will be a recommendation offered to the fiscal court. There'll be notifications put out regarding when those meetings will take place, and, the first one, they don't get to testify, right, Brad? But the second meeting, you will get the opportunity to come and offer testimony to the fiscal court, which at that time, they'll actually vote whether to make the zone change or not. So, again, we thank everybody for coming. Do we have any new business? If we have no new business, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a
Alan
second.
Hatfield,
Yes.
Doug Fritz,
Yes.
Shannon Pennington,
Yes.
Paul Bianchi,
Yes.
James Keaton,
Yes.
Chris Hager. April the 24th is the next meeting, or May the 8th is the following meeting. Pardon?
I'm not saying it's not.
It doesn't matter, whatever is up to you. You present it, if you present it on the 24th, you can have it on the agenda for vote. Okay, so I'll get the motion tomorrow. One or two. No. Yes. 4 to 2.
No, I know those decisions and stuff, and I've been on the other side of that, but I looked at. Under the relative location for commercial, the only question is because I didn't install them, whether it's a matter of but I didn't bring it up, but I bet probably looked at that, maybe with what he's concerned about. Not now, because it's been deemed a growth area. You can't hear anything. You can stand up there, you cannot hear the noise, because I had that big property. You can't hear it.
I knew who you was when I seen you. Inside there.
You know, they
I knew who you was when I saw you come in, yeah. That's right, that's right, yes, ma'am. It's your, you been doing well.